The liberation of Korea was a truly momentous event that saw the end of Japanese colonialism and the building of a new Korea. So I think it's very fitting that we've called this seminar to mark the occasion, which is in 6 days on the 15th of August. And this very day today is actually the day that President Kim Il-sung gave the order to units of the Korean People's Revolutionary Army to go over to the final offensive to liberate Korea from Japanese imperialist rule. And I'm very glad that quite a number of people have joined this seminar. It is being recorded and we will edit it and upload it to YouTube so more people can watch it later. I thank people for joining. For those of you who do not know who I am, my name is Dr. Dermot Hudson. I'm Secretary General of the European Regional Committee for Friendship with the Korean People, and also official delegate of the Korean Friendship Association for the UK and chairman of KFA UK. And before we formally start the proceedings, we're going to play the immortal revolutionary hymn, the Song of General Kim Il-sung. So Jeremy, please stand by and stream.
Traces of blood on the cracks of Schomberg's gleam. Still the armor carries along signs of blood in its stream. Still do those hollow faces shine resplendently over Korea, ever flourishing and free. So dear to all our hearts is our generous, glorious name, our own beloved Kim Il-sung of undying fame. Tell blizzards that range in the wild Manchurian plains, tell uniting forest deep where the silence reigns. Who is the partisan who deeds our onset frost? Who is the patriot whose fame shall ever last? Oh, dear to all our hearts is our generous, glorious name, our own beloved Kim Il-sung of undying fame. He severed the chains of the masses, brought them liberty. The son of Korea today, democratic and free. For the 20 points united we stand fast. Over our fair homeland spring has come at last. So dear to all our hearts is our generous, glorious name, our own beloved Kim Il-sung of undying fame.
Manse, thank you very much for streaming that, Comrade Jeremy. I will now read out quickly the congratulatory letter that we received from our counterparts in Pyongyang, the Korean Association for Cultural Exchange with Foreign Countries. Dear Chairman of the European Regional Committee for Friendship with the Korean People and Secretary General, Dr. Dermot Hudson, dear chairpersons of the Friendship Associations of the European countries and participants of the e-seminar, dear comrades and friends, first of all, we, on behalf of the Korean Association for Cultural Exchange with Foreign Countries and the Korean Associations for Friendship with the European countries, send friendly greetings to the participants of the e-seminar who gather here to grandly celebrate the 80th anniversary of Korea's liberation. At the same time, we convey warm greetings to the members of the Friendship Associations and friends who submitted written contributions with sincerity to the e-seminar. Special thanks to Chairperson Mr. Christer Lundgren and Secretary General Dr. Dermot Hudson, who dedicated their full efforts to organising this e-seminar. As you know well, August 15th is the meaningful day when Korea was liberated from Japanese imperialist colonial rule, and this year marks the 80th anniversary. 80 years since Korea's liberation, when this meaningful day comes closer, we feel the boundless longing and respect for our great leader, Comrade Kim Il-sung, an eternal leader of the Korean people, a peerless patriot and a great man. If it were not for him, Korea would have lost its ways on the earth forever and could not have thought of the powerful socialist Korea as it is today. It is the great leader, Comrade Kim Il-sung, the greatest saint and great master of independent politics, praised not only by the Korean people, but also by the world's progressive people. We are pleased that the European Regional Committee organised an e-seminar today on this special occasion, and to provide an opportunity to highly praise the immortal exploits that the great leader, Comrade Kim Il-sung, performed in the cause of national and global independence, and to get a better understanding of our country that achieves wealth, power and prosperity by dint of self-reliance. In addition, I would like to send warm and comradely greeting, once again confident that the e-seminar will perform its mission well. We firmly believe that all participants here will struggle to build a peaceful and happy society, free from aggression, war and interference, by strengthening friendship and solidarity with each other, and will conduct solidarity activities more energetically in the future, supporting our cause of justice. We look forward to the successful result of this e-seminar. Ending here, we sincerely wish you all good health and only success in your important and responsible works. Thank you. Best wishes to all on behalf of the Korean Association for Cultural Exchange with Foreign Countries, on behalf of the Korea Associations for Friendship with European Countries, August 8th, Pyongyang. And I would also quickly report for those of you who do not know, the floral basket on behalf of our committee was presented in Pyongyang, and I've circulated the picture of that. Okay, next on the list is to speak is Comrade Christer Lundgren from Sweden, Chairman of the Sweden-Korea Friendship Association and Secretary and Chairman of the European Regional Committee for Friendship with the Korean people. He gave the keynote address. Are you ready, Christer?
Soon we are going to celebrate the 80th anniversary of the liberation of Korea. This is a meaningful day when the Korean people and world progressive people are looking back with great emotion to the sacred revolutionary life and achievements of President Kim Il-sung, the greatest venerated leader of the Korean people and the great master of independent politics. President Kim Il-sung was a peerless patriot who contributed immeasurably to the sovereign independence of the nation and the cause of socialism, and also to the road for realization of global independence. He blazed a new path for the Korean Revolution under the banner of independence and opened up a new era of building a prosperous nation through the struggle of self-reliance. Self-reliance is the revolutionary idea cherished by the president, a fundamental aspect of his life and a precious heritage and eternal treasure handed down to the Korean people by the peerlessly great man. Self-reliance means to establish juche everywhere. President Kim Il-sung felt that submission to the stronger and reliance on foreign powers is the main reason for national ruin. He therefore put forward the idea of the country's independence by the efforts of the Korean nation itself, and led the arduous anti-Japanese war to victory, putting an end to the history of humiliation of the Korean nation. His immortal exploits for bringing about the liberation of Korea are being handed down through centuries. The accomplishment of the historic cause of Korea's liberation was a brilliant result of the president's idea of national independence and self-reliance. And the victory in the anti-Japanese war served as a springboard that enabled the building of Juche Korea and the road of development to be built with independence and by self-reliance. The road to the building of a country after liberation was a hard one for the Korean people. The economy was backward and the treasury was exhausted by the Japanese imperialists. However, President Kim Il-sung, with the will to build a new country by dint of the idea of achieving wealth and power by its own efforts, and the strength of the Korean people themselves, advanced through an untrodden path for building the country. Thanks to this line of building an independent and sovereign state and his energetic leadership, the historic cause of building the party and the country was achieved, and the Korean people became the masters of the creation of new life and the development of the national economy. When the US imperialists attacked the young Democratic People's Republic of Korea by force, the country was turned into heaps of ashes. After the war, hardly a brick remained on top of another. The reconstruction of the country was not the result of aid or the help of a great country, but of the power of the people united under the spirit of defending sovereign independence and self-determination. This strength of their own efforts showed the mettle of the Korean people to the US imperialists, who said that Korea could not rise again even in 100 years. By raising the legendary Cholima, in a short period of 14 years they performed a miracle, successfully carrying out the historic task of socialist industrialization and, and brought the great heyday of the Workers' Party. Thanks to President Kim Il-sung's foresight and patriotic leadership to defend the country by setting forth the original line of building an independent national economy and formally consolidating the material and technical foundations of the country, Korea built a powerful self-supporting economy standing and developing on its own feet. completely casting off the yoke of others, serving its own people, and relying on its own strength, technology, and resources. When the country was in an unprecedentedly arduous period, self-reliance rooted in the Juche idea enabled the Korean people to vigorously accelerate socialist construction by relying on a powerful, self-supporting economic foundation, and opened up the turning point in the building of the great country. If the Korean people had given up the principle of their own strength by yielding to pressure of outside forces, then socialism of independence, self-sufficiency, and self-reliance would not have been born on the earth, and the name of the country, along with the collapse of the world socialist system, would have lost its fame. Thus, the spirit of self-reliance created during the anti-Japanese revolutionary struggle is the proud tradition of the Korean Revolution, the banner of victory and the life and dignity of Korea. As self-reliance was taken as the lifeblood and motive force of the Korean Revolution, the Democratic People's Republic of Korea could successfully overcome the immediate dangers and difficulties, which was decisive for the existence of the state, and continuously bring about national historic events that firmly guarantee the independent dignity and strategic position of the Republic, achieving remarkable successes in socialist construction. Today, the Korean people, under the leadership of the respected comrade Kim Jong-un, is vigorously establishing a self-reliant defense capability of the country and comprehensively developing socialism. Regarding self-reliance as Juche Korea's characteristic national custom. Self-reliance, here lies the real character of the People's Korea, enhancing national prestige and glory to the whole world, and high dignity and bright future to Juche-oriented socialism. Admired by the progressive people of the world, the Democratic People's Republic of Korea is making a leap forward towards a powerful socialist country, creating brilliant miracles and exploits day by day. A powerful sovereign state with firm independent policy, determinedly advancing on the road that they have chosen, following their own idea and will. A self-reliant, powerful state with a solid material and technical foundation and potential to develop their economy sustainably and prospectively. As the world sees and praises, the People's Korea is a powerful country with its own capacity, a dignified country where all citizens acquire the spirit of self-reliance and achieve independent prosperity. The Korean people have walked a long way from the beginning of the revolution until today, never departing from the way of developing by their own strength and never slowing down or stopping on their way. The Korean people remains firm in their faith to defend the dignity of the country and defeat imperialism to achieve prosperity, wealth, and power through self-reliance. Having victoriously overcome all trials and difficulties by her own strength, Korea continues to carry forward a brilliant tradition for the future.
Thank you very much, Comrade Krista. That was beautifully read. Now, we had expected Comrade Alejandro de Benos, President of the Korean Friendship Association, to be here today, but rather unfortunately, an emergency has occurred with his family. He told me just half an hour ago. So I will read out his speech that he was going to deliver. And it is as follows. Today we gather to honour The eternal President Kim Il-sung, the great leader of the Korean people and son of the Korean nation. His life was a shining example of revolutionary struggle, unwavering patriotism, and unbreakable spirit of self-reliance. Juche. President Kim Il-sung not only liberated Korea from colonial rule, but also laid the foundation for a strong, independent, and prosperous socialist nation. His leadership was guided by the principle that the masses are the masters of their own destiny, and through self-reliance, any obstacles can be overcome. Let us reflect on his immortal achievements and the enduring legacy of Juche, which continues to inspire millions around the world. 1. The birth of the Juche idea, the philosophy of self-reliance. President Kim Il-sung's revolutionary ideology was rooted in the Juche idea. Juche teaches that man is the master of his own fate, and a nation must rely on its own strength, wisdom, and resources to achieve true independence. At a time when Korea was divided and the imperialists sought to dominate the world, President Kim Il-sung declared, "Independence is the lifeblood of a nation. Without independence, a country cannot truly be free." The philosophy became the cornerstone of Korea's development, ensuring that no foreign power could dictate its future. 2. Leading the anti-Japanese struggle, self-reliance in the revolution. Even in his youth, President Kim Il-sung demonstrated the power of self-reliance. During the anti-Japanese armed struggle, 1925 to 1945, he formed the Korean People's Revolutionary Army without relying on outside forces. With no state backing, he organized guerrillas, manufactured weapons, and inspired the people to fight for liberation. One of his greatest victories was the Battle of Pochombo, 1937, where his forces struck a decisive blow against Japanese imperialism. This battle proved that even a small but determined force guided by self-reliance could defeat a powerful enemy. 3. Building a new Korea, self-reliance in construction. After liberation in 1945, Korea faced devastation. The Japanese colonialists had plundered the land, and the country was divided by foreign powers. Yet President Kim Il-sung refused to bow to external pressures. He initiated the Chalima movement in the 1950s, a campaign of mass mobilization where workers and farmers rebuilt their nation with their own hands. Factories, schools, and hospitals arose from the ashes of war. The Kangsan steelworks became a symbol of this spirit. Workers produced steel without advanced machinery, proving that determination could overcome any shortage. When the imperialists imposed sanctions, President Kim Il-sung responded, "If others have it, we can make it. If others don't, we will invent it." 4. Defending sovereignty, self-reliance against imperialism. The Fatherland Liberation War, 1950 to 1953, was a brutal test of the nation's resilience. The US and its allies sought to crush the young DPRK, bombing cities and villages into rubble. But under President Kim Il-sung's leadership, the Korean people fought with unparalleled courage. After the war, instead of depending on foreign aid, he launched the three revolutions, ideological, technical, and cultural, to strengthen the nation. He emphasized, "A nation that depends on others will lose its dignity. We must stand on our own feet." By the 1970s, Korea had achieved remarkable progress developing its own industries and agricultural systems. 5. The eternal legacy, the Juche era continues. President Kim Il-sung passing in 1994 did not mark the end of his legacy. The Juche idea lives on, guiding the DPRK under the leadership of Generalissimo Kim Jong-il and Marshal Kim Jong-un. Today, despite relentless imperialist threats, Korea remains steadfast in its independence. From the Sungha military first policy to the development of cutting-edge technology, the spirit of self-reliance ensures that no force can break the will of the Korean people. President Kim Il-sung was not just a leader, he was the father of the DPRK, the architect of its independence, and the eternal symbol of Juche. His life teaches us that strength comes from believing in our own power. Let us honour his memory by upholding the principles of self-reliance, defending the DPRK's sovereignty and advancing towards a brighter socialist future. Long live the immortal memory of our eternal President Kim Il-sung. Thank you. Alejandro Benos, President of the KFA. Next speaker is actually myself, and I'll probably shorten my speech a bit. Today's People's Korea, under the leadership of dear respected Marshal Kim Jong-un, is leaping ahead in the revolutionary spirit of self-reliance, bravely smashing the draconian sanctions imposed by the criminal US imperialists and their grovelling acolytes, such as the UK government. Self-reliance is the permanent mode and also traditional fighting spirit of the Korean Revolution that was established by the great leader, President Kim Il-sung. Self-reliance is a concrete application of the Juche idea. It is the basis of all the Korean people's victories. As President Kim Il-sung said, Juche and self-reliance, these are the basic guarantees for all our achievements. Right from the early days of the anti-Japanese struggle, President Kim Il-sung rejected the idea of looking to outside big powers for salvation. He knew well the history of Korea, which had seen Korea's independence sacrificed on the altar of the worship of big powers. Paying no heed to the flunkiest dogmatists and fake nationalists, President Kim Il-sung resolved to rely on the people and organize revolutionary activity among them instead of pinning hopes on illusory outside help. President Kim Il-sung pointed out, it is self-evident that we cannot depend upon nor beg anyone for our country's liberation. We must achieve the liberation of our country and our nation by our own efforts through active armed struggle. End of quotation. During the anti-Japanese armed struggle, some guerrillas hoped that the USSR, the first socialist country, the first workers and peasants state, would build a hand grenade factory for them. However, no answer came from the Soviets. So President Kim Il-sung created a homemade hand grenade called the Yonggil bomb, which was very powerful. And of course, today, the DPRK has its own nuclear Yonggil bomb. After Korea's liberation from Japanese imperialist colonial rule in the 1940s, President Kim Il-sung put forward the line of building an independent national economy, saying in 1948 that for complete national independence, sovereignty, and for national prosperity and development, one must build an independent national economy and thus firmly ensure economic independence. It was the first time that any country had put forward the line of building an independent economy, a truly bold line. President Kim Il-sung also made sure that People's Korea developed its own munitions industry on the basis of self-reliance. At first, some great power chauvinists in a certain country told Korea that they should not establish their own armed forces, nor have their own munitions industry. President Kim Il-sung also insisted that the DPRK should not simply assemble weapons made by another country, but should produce its own weapons. A munitions workshop was established at Pyeongchang-ri, and in 1948, the DPRK produced its first ever submachine gun. In the late 1950s, when the DPRK was recovering from the severe destruction caused by the US imperialists during the Fatherland Liberation War, the modern revisionist and great power chauvinists tried to put pressure on the DPRK to join the Council for Mutual Economic Assistance, but it refused to do so, maintaining the line of economic independence. The great leader, President Kim Il-sung, defined the independent national economy as follows, and I quote, "Building an independent national economy means building a diversified economy, equipping it with up-to-date technology and creating a solid basis of raw materials, thereby building up an all-embracing economic system in which every branch is structurally interrelated so as to provide domestically most of the products of heavy and light industry and agricultural produce needed to make the country wealthy and powerful and improve people's living conditions." In 1962, the big power chauvinists and revisionists, because they disapproved of the revolutionary policies of the DPRK and its independent line, ended cooperation with the DPRK and cut off weapons supplies. But President Kim Il-sung raised higher the revolutionary banner of self-reliance. Under the leadership of President Kim Il-sung, the DPRK industrialized rapidly. In the late 1950s, growth in industrial output hit 40% in some years. The DPRK became a self-reliant people's paradise. Today's self-reliant socialist People's Korea, which is advancing on the basis of self-development, is the precious fruit of the great teachings of President Kim Il-sung on self-reliance. Glory to the 80th anniversary of Korea's liberation. Long live Juche, long live self-reliance, long live People's Korea, long live respected Marshal Kim Jong-un. Thank you for listening, comrades. And now I call upon Comrade Paula, the regional delegate for KFA Andalusia in Spain.
Hi, good afternoon, everyone. So the Democratic People's Republic of Korea has many wonderful characteristics as a sovereign country. That makes it the special socialist paradise it is today. Among these unique traits, self-reliance is one of the main pillars of the country. Eternal President Kim Il-sung wisely led the DPRK towards full independence from external powers, prioritizing making and building every single possible good in the DPRK with their own resources and labor. An example of this are the first pencil factories after ridding the country from the Japanese imperialists, showing Eternal President Kim Il-sung's view of educating people as the first step towards the revolution's progress. Not depending on any other country and not owing anyone economical servitude was and still is the best way to self-reliance. This is basically the reason why all the sanctions the world has unfairly imposed on the DPRK barely affects them. From mining ore, purifying and melting the metal to forging it into screws and nuts, the whole process is completely done in the DPRK with their own labor and resources. Self-reliance is the main point in the conception of the Juche idea. Without it, we cannot conceive political independence nor autonomous military defense. The impregnable fortress that eternal President Kim Il-sung forged, relying entirely on the masses and with the sole objective of protecting people's interests since the day the anti-Japanese struggle began until today, has become a worldwide revolutionary victory that will continue to shine forever. Years after eternal President Kim Il-sung's physical disappearance, his glorious revolutionary spirit accompanies every step the Korean people take towards the bright future. Respected Marshal Kim Jong-un will continue following his path and guide the Democratic People's Republic of Korea towards their inevitable victory against their sworn enemies, revisionists, and reactionaries. Thank you.
Thank you very much. A very good speech. And next, KFA Austria is to speak, and I've just seen them there. I'm just going to allow you to speak, so please go ahead, KFA Austria, when you're ready. Thank you.
Hello, friends and comrades. People's Korea today is the most advanced socialist nation on earth. The cultural heritage of the Korean people served as a foundation for the Juche-based socialist society that favors the collective over the individual. As we all know, the Democratic People's Republic of Korea is surviving and improving the working and living conditions of the people. Decades-long and brutal imperialist efforts to destroy the DPRK remained futile because People's Korea has a strong ideology of self-reliance. Founded by President Kim Il-sung at the Kowloon Conference mid-June 1930 and further refined by Chairman Kim Jong-il in famous works like On the Juche Idea, as well as single-hearted unity between people, party and leader. At the heart of Comrade Kim Il-sung's political philosophy lies self-reliance. To understand this concept, we must understand the historical context in which it was forged. Korea, long a pawn in the geopolitical games of empires, had suffered domination by external powers, first Imperial China, then Japan, and later division between the Soviet and American spheres after World War II. It was in response to this legacy of foreign domination that Juche, the idea of national self-determination and independence, emerged. Generalissimo Kim Il-sung's doctrine of self-reliance had three fundamental pillars: political independence, economic self-sustainability, and military self-defense. First, political independence. Comrade Kim Il-sung believed that no country could achieve true sovereignty if it relied on foreign powers to determine its political path. In this, he broke away not only from imperialist influences, but also asserted a level of independence even from allies like the Soviet Union and China. Juche meant that Korea would chart its own political course, free from dependency, even on those who shared its ideological commitments. Second, economic self-sustainability. President Kim Il-sung advocated for an economy that was not beholden to international markets or foreign aid. People's Korea, under his leadership, pursued a policy of heavy industrialization with an emphasis on domestic production. This aim was to ensure that the Korean people could provide for themselves, reducing vulnerability to foreign manipulation or sanctions. In his speeches and writings, Kim Il-sung often emphasized the dignity of labor and the importance of mobilizing the people's collective will to overcome hardship. Third, military self-defense. Given Korea's tumultuous history of invasions, Comrade Kim Il-sung viewed a strong national defense as essential. The Korean People's Army, KPA, was not merely a military institution, but a symbol of Juche, the embodiment of a people's determination to defend their homeland without relying on others. This principle was sharply emphasized during and after the Great Fatherland Liberation War, when People's Korea resisted both Western forces and ongoing external pressure. President Kim Il-sung's idea of self-reliance was not isolationist. Rather, it was about autonomy, about engaging with the world on one's own terms. Juche is, in this sense, both a national strategy and a materialist attitude. The belief that the Korean people, through unity and ideological clarity, could overcome all obstacles. Comrade Kim Il-sung's legacy also has a cultural and moral dimension. He promoted the idea that man is the master of everything and decides everything. A deeply human-centered philosophy that places the masses at the core of history. In this way, Juche diverged from classical Marxism-Leninism. While borrowing the language of dialectical materialism, Kim Il-sung recast it through a nationalist and voluntarist lens. The people were not merely products of history, they were its agents. So Juche adds to Marxism-Leninism a much-needed materialist theory on society. In our modern era, where many nations still grapple with questions of sovereignty, identity, and development, the legacy of Kim Il-sung invites both critique and reflection. Whether one agrees with its methods or not, there is no denying the coherence of his ideological vision. In a world often dominated by external dictates, whether from international financial institutions, foreign governments, or transnational corporations, Kim Il-sung's insistence on national dignity and independent development resonates in many quarters of the global South. Today, the principle of self-reliance continues to be cited by political movements across the world, from Latin America to Africa to Southeast Asia. Echoes of Juche can be found in calls for economic justice, national sovereignty, and cultural decolonization. In this sense, the idea of self-reliance transcends borders. It is not merely a Korean ideal, it is a global aspiration. Juche is in the hearts and minds of all true communists in the world today. In conclusion, Kim Il-sung's legacy is deeply intertwined with the principle of self-reliance. Through Juche, he articulated a vision of a nation that could stand on its own, proud and independent, guided by its own people and values. While the world has changed dramatically since his time, the questions he posed about independence, agency, and development remain as vital as ever. Let us reflect on the lessons with critical eyes and open minds, and may the spirit of self-reliance continue to inspire all those who strive for dignity, justice, and true sovereignty in our world today. Down with the puppet regime in South Korea. Down with the US imperialists and their lackeys. Long live the Democratic People's Republic of Korea. Long live the Workers' Party of Korea. Long live Comrade Kim Jong-un. Thank you very much.
For a good speech and very well delivered. Thank you. Next, I will call KFA Croatia to speak. I've seen you here. So I'm just unmute. So whenever you're ready, please go ahead. Thank you.
Yes, thank you for the introduction. I hope you can hear me. So without further ado, here is my speech that I entitled "The Importance of Self-Reliance Made Clear by the Examples of the Contrary." Dear comrades, friends, and fellow supporters of the Democratic People's Republic of Korea, today we are gathered virtually, but with nonetheless real intent to celebrate the person of President Kim Il-sung as well as self-reliance. It is obvious to any supporter of the DPRK how these two are connected. President Kim Il-sung established the DPRK as a country founded on the Juche idea, which is taken to be almost synonymous with self-reliance. Furthermore, he made sure that the Juche idea does not just remain an idea or a rhetorical device, but is actually implemented in practice. Throughout his career, he served his country, both by defeating outside enemies and also by doing incredible work to build a socialist nation, all while constantly emphasizing relying on one's own efforts. This has not only secured that the nation is united, but has also made it possible to achieve feats that cause a difficulty for much larger countries. The world is constantly getting reminded of what happens when a state forgets to rely on its own people. The recent tragic events in Syria are just one example. One reason to call it tragic, relevant to the KFA, is that the world lost a state friendly to the DPRK. But it is good to reflect on what exactly went wrong, and I believe that it is the clearest example of the importance of self-reliance we could ever have gotten. The loss of the USSR was the most important event in recent history, but examining what went wrong in this case often results in a search for ideological purity that can devolve into idealism. Meanwhile, what went wrong in Syria? How is it possible that the Assad regime fell in just a week? Doubtless, this isn't the only interpretation, but what seems decisive in the end was precisely relying on outside forces, namely Russia and Iran. It was enough for the opposition forces to find one hole, one mistake in Russian forces, and the resulting victory made Russian and Iranian forces retreat, naturally not willing to suffer losses for a foreign country. After they left, the weakness of the Syrian state was revealed, and the regime fell like a house of cards. To me, at least, the cause seems obvious: the lack of self-reliance. What resulted was not good for anyone. While in Iraq, Ba'athism remained as an underground movement, in Syria the massive failure of the state completely killed all support. Is the Syria under the new regime better off? It is difficult to see anyone who is truly satisfied with it. It also as a Western puppet, and he makes compromises which are sure to leave his Islamist supporters wanting more, while the liberals surely are not happy either with a former ISIS member as president. This kind of common dissatisfaction with no real existing opposition is typical of liberal democracies, and completely unlike the true rule of the people existing in People's Korea. Most of us live in liberal democracies, so-called democracies, and I believe we can relate to this even if circumstances are way less dramatic. Croatia is maybe a little closer, having a war in the 90s. You will often hear here that we should be grateful to NATO for their support, but I've wondered for a long time now if this does not in actuality reveal a lack of faith in the nation, and if the resulting and if the resulting place within NATO and the EU is really all that great. Which makes me think about how from war-torn countries going through regime change to first world countries, there is a great detriment caused by a lack of self-reliance. In this dark world, the DPRK shines like a beacon to all the progressive peoples of the world. For this, we can thank Kim Il-sung for building up the republic and laying strong foundations on which Kim Jong-il and Kim Jong-un could rely on to maintain the DPRK and to win new victories for it. Anyone with care for their people or their nation has plenty of reason to look up to the DPRK as probably the most independent country in the world. And in light of this, I hope others will also realize the importance of looking up to Kim Il-sung, President Kim Il-sung, and striving for self-reliance. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Very interesting speech, nicely delivered. So the next speech will be from the Denmark DPRK Friendship Association. I've seen them in.
Can you all hear me? Yeah, that's a demonstration in the background, that's why. So I'm just trying to go away. On August 15th, 1945, the Korean people cast off a cruel yoke of Japanese imperialism. After 45 years of colonial rule, Korea was liberated not by choice, not by chance, but through decades of determined resistance and immense sacrifice. We remember the countless revolutionaries who gave everything for the cause of liberation and socialism. From the Great March 1st uprising in 1919 to the network of underground people's committees, their efforts formed the backbone of the liberation movement. Foremost among these was Commander-in-Chief Kim Il-sung, leader of the anti-Japanese People's Guerrilla Army. From the forest of northern Korea and Manchuria, his fighters dealt heavy blows to imperialist forces and ignited a flame of resistance that could not be extinguished. Japanese occupation was an era of forced assimilation, looting of resources, and barbaric repression. Korean identity was suppressed, millions were sent to work as forced laborers, and countless young women were coerced into serving the Japanese war machine in the most inhumane of ways. These atrocities must be remembered, not in bitterness, but with resolve. Yet through adversity, the Korean spirit never broke. Guerrilla fighters united across cities, villages, and generations. The leadership of Commander Kim Il-sung drew strength from the people's will, laying the foundations of the Democratic People's Republic of Korea and its continued commitment to national sovereignty. The year 1945 was a triumph, but also a tragedy. Liberation came hand in hand with foreign-imposed division. The Korean people, after decades of struggle, were denied the right to chart their own path. While the DPRK emerged with independence, South Korea was brought under a foreign-backed military regime. People's committees and resistance networks were dismantled, silenced, or branded enemies. Still today, Korea remains divided not by choice, but by external pressure. The DPRK faces sanctions, military provocations, and constant attempts to undermine its progress. Yet it stands firm, guided by the legacy of resistance and led by General Secretary Kim Jong-un along the path of socialist construction. On this 80th anniversary, the Denmark DPRK Friendship Association reaffirms its solidarity with the Korean people. We honor the fallen, celebrate the survivors, and support the continued anti-imperialist efforts of the Korean people led by the Workers' Party. The Korean Peninsula must be free of foreign interference, nuclear threats, and militarized division. The future belongs to the people of Korea, a future built on justice, progress, and peace. Let the legacy of the anti-Japanese guerrillas guide the path forward. Sincerely, Nikolai Oman, Chairman of the Denmark-DPRK Friendship Association. Thank you very much, everyone.
Thank you for reading the speech in somewhat difficult conditions. I think the fact you're on a Palestine solidarity march demonstrates the solidarity between People's Korea and Palestine, and the fact that the DPRK always supports all anti-imperialist struggles. Next, I will call on Comrade Jeremy, Chairman of KFA Germany, to deliver his speech, and he will be followed by
Dear Comrade Dr. Dermot Hudson, dear Comrade Krista Landgren, dear participants of this online seminar. The Japanese occupation of Korea was one of the darkest chapters of Korean history. 200,000 Korean women suffered under sex slavery. Many Koreans had to suffer under forced work or were even murdered. The Japanese imperialists even tried to eradicate the Korean nation by forbidding the Korean language and Korean names. President Kim Il-sung said about that time, I quote, "Under the rule of Japanese imperialists, the Korean people were deprived of all political rights and freedoms and subjected to cruel colonial and feudal oppression and exploitation. The development of the national economy was severely hampered, and education, culture, and customs of the Korean nation were mercilessly tread underfoot. The Japanese imperialist rulers, through hundreds of thousands of patriots, had risen up in the anti-Japanese struggle to save a nation from ruin, into prison, and murdered them." End of quote. But the Korean people resisted. Under President Kim Il-sung, they led an over a decade-long guerrilla war against the Japanese imperialists, which through the wise leadership of President Kim Il-sung, led to the liberation of Korea on the 15th of August, 80 years ago. President Kim Il-sung said, I quote again, "With the defeat of the Japanese imperialists who had occupied our homeland, the path to rebirth opened up for our people. The liberated Korean people set themselves the task of completely dismantling the colonial rule of the defeated Japanese imperialists and building a democratic, independent state." End of quote. And exactly this was achieved under the leadership of President Kim Il-sung and his successors, Comrade Kim Jong-il and Marshal Kim Jong-un. Already in the first years of the liberation, the women were made equal to the men. The industry and banks were nationalized. The land reform took away the land from the big landlords and collaborators and gave it to the poor peasants, with no or little, only little land. The 8-hour day and social security system was introduced. The US imperialists tried to stop the Korean Revolution by invading the DPRK, but the heroic Korean People's Army beat the US imperialists in 15 of their satellite states, the second imperialist power that they beat in one generation. The DPRK successfully built socialism. They abolished taxation, established free education, free housing, and free healthcare. Food and public transportation are very cheap. No sanctions, no hostile military aggressions can stop socialism in the DPRK. Today, the DPRK is a nuclear power and an ICBM power, bringing fear into the hearts of the imperialists and defending the socialist achievements. Today, Marshal Kim Jong-un defends independence gained in the fight against the Japanese imperialists. Glory to the 80th anniversary of the liberation of Korea from Japanese colonial rule. Glory to the DPRK. Glory to Marshal Kim Jong-un. Mansei.
Mansei, Mansei. Long live People's Korea. Thank you for your militant speech, Comrade Jeremy. Now I'm going to call upon Comrade Marta Grelak from Poland to speak.
Dear comrades, we are joining today from various countries across Europe and the world to celebrate together the upcoming great holiday of our dear Korean friends. We all look up to the DPRK as the greatest inspiration, the brightest beacon of hope, and the strongest bulwark of justice. One of the main pillars of this great country that we all admire so deeply is self-reliance, the principle of Chucha idea founded by the great leader President Kim Il-sung. The upcoming 80th anniversary of the Day of the Liberation of Koreans from Japanese colonial rule is associated with the great exploits of President Kim Il-sung. At the time of Japanese occupation of Korea, Japan was boasting of being the leader of Asia, having formidable military capabilities. To many, the idea that Korea could ever regain its sovereignty seemed impossible. Ultimately, however, the Japanese Empire was compelled to return Korea's freedom. President Kim Il-sung liberated the country, but by organizing and leading 20-year-old arduous anti-Japanese revolutionary struggle to victory. From an early age, he chose the difficult path of patriotic struggle that demanded constant sacrifice and complete dedication to the nation's cause. From the beginning, he knew the path of self-reliance was the one the nation should follow. He was the brilliant commander of the guerrilla army who constantly surprised and struck fear into occupiers with his extraordinary tactics. It must be also emphasized that President Kim Il-sung waged the anti-Japanese armed struggle relying on the Korean people, knowing well that waiting for help from global powers to save the enslaved nation would lead nowhere. The sovereign Korean state, the DPRK, was proclaimed in 1948. It has had to face many unbelievably enormous challenges throughout its history, but always emerged victorious. In the 1950s, after repelling US aggression in an unprecedented victory that astonished the world, the country was reduced to rubble by American bombings. But under the wise leadership of President Kim Il-sung, the Korean people quickly rebuilt their country, relying on their own strength. In just 14 years, the process of industrialization was completed that had taken others a century or even several centuries. Today, the DPRK and its people are advancing ever more vigorously along the path of self-reliance under the outstanding leadership of Marshal Kim Jong-un. The DPRK is unfairly burdened with extremely harsh, heinous sanctions that block its international vision and trade, and are designed to strangle the country. But such tactics don't work on Socialist Korea. Its economy continues to develop dynamically. Modern factories are being built nationwide, producing increasingly high quality and diverse goods. Amazing grand projects for the people are constantly being realized. Citizens enjoyed numerous new and wonderful cultural, recreational, educational or healthcare facilities. Beautiful and modern urban and rural residential complexes are being built on a large scale, and we must also remember that in the DPRK, like nowhere else, people receive these apartments for free. All these amazing achievements, as well as the safety of the Korean people and peace, are reliably protected by the powerful self-reliant capabilities of the DPRK in the field of national defense. Socialist Korea's citizens are enjoying a beautiful and happy life, and their standard of living is constantly rising. Nothing can stop it. Of course, as friends of the Korean people, we all know this well, especially since many of us have had the honor of visiting the country. It's not without the reason that we feel such deep admiration for this country. The DPRK is capable of achieving the unimaginable, overcoming any obstacle like no other state. And this is possible thanks to the policy of self-reliance initiated by President Kim Il-sung and continued today in the most perfect way by respected Marshal Kim Jong-un. The history of the national liberation struggle led by President Kim Il-sung, which culminated in Korea's liberation 8 years ago, is glorious and brilliant. The same is true of the subsequent history of the founding and development of the DPRK, a country that has consistently followed its own chosen path without needing the approval or help of external forces, relying on its self-reliance principle. We cannot predict with much certainty what the world will look like in a month, a year, or 50 years. We cannot foresee the decisions that various states or international actors will take. But I'm absolutely certain that regardless of all this, the future of Socialist Korea will be glorious and brilliant. It will only become brighter and more beautiful because the wise policy of self-reliance of respected Marshal Kim Jong-un, regardless of external circumstances, continues to turn the dreams of the Korean people into reality, and the DPRK is able to achieve world-startling miracles, anything it is determined to do. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Comrade Marta, for a beautifully read speech. And next, I will call upon KFA Serbia to deliver their speech, to be followed by KFA UK Staffordshire. So please go ahead when you're ready.
Thank you, comrades. Thank you to all the friends of People's Korea. I'm grateful to be able to speak to you today on the occasion of the 80th anniversary of the liberation of Korea. So, President Kim Il-sung spent his entire life working to better the lives of his people. His wisdom and experience, gained from waging a hard-fought guerrilla campaign against the Japanese occupiers, taught him that the only way for a people to realize their own independence and creativity is to be self-reliant. During the campaign for Korean independence, the Korean people were on the brink of destruction. The Korean state was destroyed. Thousands of Koreans were living as refugees in Manchuria, and many were suffering from the horrific crimes committed by the Japanese army. In this environment, many thought that only foreign intervention could save Korea. They gave up on any notion of fighting for independence, arousing a national armed struggle against the occupiers, and were placing their lives in the hands of foreign armies. In the first years of his revolutionary struggle, the leader saw through their mistakes and took a different path, the revolutionary path. Under Kim Il-sung's leadership, the Korean revolutionaries never relied on the guidance of foreign countries to accomplish their goals, but relied solely on themselves, realizing that only by educating and mobilizing the Korean masses would the final victory be achieved. Under the guiding idea of self-reliance, they deprived the enemy of their weapons with their bare fists, arming themselves. They even built their own weapon factories under extremely harsh conditions without any state backing. These feats are only possible when the people stand firmly on the standpoint of self-reliance. In this way, self-reliance is a tradition of the anti-imperialist struggle. After liberation, Korea continued to travel on the revolutionary road of self-reliance. It built its own independent economy, guided by the Juche idea, ensuring the independence of its people, boldly rejecting any attempts of encroachment. Korea continues to this day to develop a powerful state, a constant pain for imperialists and their lackeys. President Kim Il-sung said, "Nobody should have an idea of depending on foreign countries. Dependence will get us nowhere. Such a spirit holds back people from striving to tap the resources of their own country and can greatly retard its development. It can also give rise to worship of big countries and various other abuses. The Korean people have made this mistake in the past. During feudal times, Korea has many times sacrificed its independent standing in the name of worshipping foreign powers. But Korea has learned from its history, and its wise leadership ensures that such mistakes never happen again. Korea is one of the last countries in the world that refuses to join organizations such as the IMF or the World Trade Organization. The purpose is to enslave smaller countries through debt. This is due to the important people-centered standpoint of self-reliance, which always guides the DPRK. As President Kim Il-sung said, for complete national independence and sovereignty and for national prosperity and development, one must build an independent national economy and thus firmly ensure economic independence. Most of the world, in its imperialist, hateful zeal, regard the deep Korean independent line as a threat. They do everything in their power to destroy the DPRK, implementing harsh sanctions to cause suffering for its people. But Korea remembers the wise lessons of Kim Il-sung and his revolutionary fight for the liberation and independence of the Korean people. They will never relent and surrender to imperialist pressures. Instead, Korea continues to develop, increasing the standard of living of its people to almost unimaginable levels. Glory to People's Korea.
Thank you very much. Another very beautifully read speech. And now call upon Comrade Sean Pickford, Chair of the Staffordshire, North Staffordshire branch of KFA UK and Secretary General of the British Group for the Study of the Jewish Idea, and he's been a KFA member for nearly 25 years. So when you're ready, Sean, please speak.
Okay, I will speak on the subject of revolutionary traditions of the anti-Japanese struggle. The revolutionary traditions are a heritage from the period when the right path was opened for the struggle of the working class. They are a priceless asset, a source of inspiration for successfully carrying out the revolution and construction. These traditions can only take place in the course of the struggle of the popular masses. It is only when the leader of the revolution, who can create a legacy of progressive and socialist traditions, comes forth, and that will be realized by a great leader. The Korean people have waged a ceaseless struggle against foreign aggressors and all shades of class enemies. However, the communist movement in Korea suffered from repeated failures, going through ordeals for lack of guidance by a prominent leader. Only when the Korean people acclaimed President Kim Il-sung as the son of the nation and the outstanding leader of the revolution could the workers, the peasants, and intellectuals of Korea greet the new era of struggle, advancing with a correct guiding ideology. It was not until President Kim Il-sung embarked on the road of national and social liberation, leading the Korean people to victory over Japanese colonialism. These traditions were created in the crucible of the 15-year-long anti-Japanese armed struggle. The revolutionary traditions created by President Kim Il-sung during the anti-Japanese struggle are the embodiments of the Jewish idea. In the incipient stage of carving out a new path of revolution, the great leader, Comrade Kim Il-sung, offered the Jewish idea and put forward original strategies and tactics as its embodiments. Further, the great General Kim Il-sung trained a large number of communists of the younger generation and made the popular masses revolutionary and organized them, thereby building up the backbone force of the Korean Revolution. Based on a scientific analysis of the situation in Korea, General Kim Il-sung founded the Korean People's Revolutionary Army and waged an organized and protracted armed struggle against the Japanese imperialist aggressors. The anti-Japanese armed struggle was a national liberation war led by the communists under the banner of the Jewish idea for the first time in history. It was the most arduous revolutionary war unprecedented in the annals of conflict. President Kim Il-sung led the anti-Japanese revolutionary struggle to a historic victory with distinguished revolutionary thought and theory, with rare ability of leadership. These revolutionary traditions created by President Kim Il-sung fully embodied the Jewish idea. The theory of revolution and the method of leadership evolved on the basis of the anti-Japanese struggle. The ideological system of Juche and communist revolutionary fighting spirit, immortal revolutionary exploits, and valuable combat experience and work with the popular masses are the most important contents of the glorious anti-Japanese resistance traditions of the 1930s and 1940s. The revolutionary traditions established by President Kim Il-sung during the anti-Japanese struggle have been further developed by Chairman Kim Jong-il and Marshal Kim Jong-un. Regarding the inheritance of the anti-Japanese revolutionary traditions as a fundamental issue that is decisive of the fate of Korean-style socialism, Marshal Kim Jong-un resolutely upholds these traditions and carries them on forward with credit. The revolutionary traditions of the Workers' Party of Korea are of universal significance for the Korean people and other revolutionary peoples of the world, because these legacies contain the correct guidelines to be consistently adhered to in the process of the revolution and construction. On the 80th anniversary of the liberation of Korea from Japanese imperialism, the militant and glorious revolutionary traditions established by the great and respected General Kim Il-sung and carried on by the dear respected comrade Kim Jong-un will live forever in the hearts and minds of progressive humanity.
Thank you very much, Comrade Sean, for that very good speech, and I think it's good to have a veteran member of KFA UK here today. Okay, so we move on to the section where we've got some speeches from outside Europe, because this seminar was primarily aimed at European countries. However, a number of KFA branches from outside Europe kindly sent in papers. If this is from Aidan, the delegate of KFA Canada, which has recently been reformed, and it reads, "There is a simple reason we are here today. This is a consequence of individuals who constituted themselves around a motivation that nearly all nations are centered around: a dignified life in a free land. 80 years ago, the dedication, sacrifice, fervous resistance against the efforts of imperialist Japanese colonialism, a tidal wave raging over the Korean Peninsula, resulted in the national liberation of Korea, inspired by fervent efforts that allowed even more awe-inspiring efforts. Canadians from the Atlantic to the Pacific dedicated themselves to combat the disorganization of the organization that continues to stand against the torrent of jingoistic aggression against the Korean people. KFA Canada had demonstrated our capacity that we are still here and that we still believe in the freedom and dignity of the Korean people. We stand for a peaceful and dignified friendship between Canada and the Democratic People's Republic of Korea." The moment when people who could have stayed unseen and unheard from the barbarous exterminators, people who could have walked away, chose instead to say, "We are not finished." This demonstrates that there is a vision of peace, of friendship, of a dignified life. We choose to gather in this. We will always remember the courage and compassion of the Korean people. We have rebuilt and remain dedicated to the principles of our organization. What defines a group is not how perfectly it operates when everything is easy. It is when we stand together after setbacks. To this, we return still when the resistance against peace is more vigorous than most of us remember. It is whom we have abided by the principles of self-reliance that picks up the pieces, let alone replace it with an even more hardened movement. As we grow, as we educate and mobilise more, our members will look back to this as a demonstration of what happens to those who preserve and abide by principles of peace rather than subside in the connivance of barbarism. We will carry the lessons of past trials and promote the dignified future. KFA Canada is here now. We are here to yield the burden of history in order for all of us to march forward to a dignified peace of tomorrow. KFA Canada. Okay, we've got two other messages, one from KFA Singapore and one from KFA Kenya, another new KFA branch.
Dear comrades and friends from KFA in Europe, warm greetings from KFA Singapore. We are glad that throughout these years, we are able to stand united with the DPRK in our fight against the imperialists. Our fight against imperialism will never end, and we will not end the revolution of the great man of Mount Pekto, guided by His Excellency Kim Jong-un. We wish this seminar to be a success and hope for many collaborations in the future. Thank you.
Much, comrade, for your contribution. Now call upon KFA Kenya to deliver your message. You can speak. Please go ahead.
Viva, comrades, viva. Okay. Dear comrades, distinguished guests, organizers, and fellow participants, it is a profound honor and privilege to be before you today as we mark the 80th anniversary of the heroic liberation of Korea from Japanese imperialist rule. This milestone is not merely a historical date. It represents the culmination of a struggle rooted in courage, sacrifice, and a deep, unyielding desire for freedom. It is a struggle that resonates deeply with us here today as we continue our own fight for justice, dignity, and sovereignty in Kenya and across Africa. 80 years ago, in 1945, the Korean people, under the resolute leadership of Comrade Kim Il-sung, triumphed over colonial oppression, reclaiming their homeland from the clutches of foreign domination. This victory was not just Korea's. It was a victory for all oppressed peoples who dared to dream of a world free from exploitation and subjugation. It is a victory that inspires us, the people of Kenya, the people of Africa, and the people of the global South, who continue to face the legacies of imperialism and the struggle for true independence. As a delegate of the Korean Friendship Association, KFA Kenya, and as the chair of the Socialist Workers Movement of Kenya, I am here today not only to celebrate this historic moment, but to reaffirm our unbreakable bond with the people of Korea. The legacy of Comrade Kim Il-sung, the eternal president of the Democratic People's Republic of Korea, has been an enduring source of inspiration for our own movement. His vision of self-reliance, national sovereignty, and socialism has paved the way for a future where the oppressed can rise and stand tall, proud and unyielding in their pursuit of justice. We recognize the incredible achievements of the DPRK under the leadership of Comrade Kim Jong-un, who, despite facing relentless pressure from imperialist forces, continues to champion the principles of independence, peace, and self-determination. In this era of global challenges, the DPRK's steadfast resistance to foreign domination remains a beacon of hope for all those who believe in the power of the people to shape their own destiny. As members of the Socialist Workers Movement of Kenya, we are acutely aware of the importance of solidarity between the progressive forces of the world. We recognize that the struggle for socialism, for justice, and for true independence does not end with the liberation of one nation. It is a collective struggle that transcends borders. Today we express our solidarity with the people of the DPRK and with all those who are engaged in the fight against imperialism and for a more just and equitable world. This e-seminar, which we have gathered for today is a powerful example of international solidarity. It provides us with an opportunity to deepen our understanding of the Korean people's history, their achievements, and their ongoing struggle. Through this dialogue, we strengthen our collective resolve and commit to advancing the cause of justice, peace, and independence across the globe. As we celebrate the 80th anniversary of Korea's liberation, let us remember that the struggle for true freedom is never over. The victory of Korea against imperialism is a victory for all oppressed peoples. The lessons of Korea's liberation resonate in every corner of the world, where the fight for sovereignty, dignity, and self-determination continues to be waged. Let us recommit ourselves to the cause of independence and peace. Let us honor the memory of those who fought for Korea's freedom, and let us continue to work hand in hand with the people of the DPRK and all progressive forces to build a world where no nation is subjugated, where all peoples are free to determine their own future. Long live the friendship between the people of Korea and the Democratic People's Republic of Korea. Long live the cause of independence, socialism, and peace. Long live KFA. Long live the Socialist Workers' Movement. Long live.
Thank you very much, comrade, for such a nice speech, which I think was very fitting. And I would like to express my solidarity to the Kenyan people who are struggling against imperialism and neo-colonialism for an independent people's Kenya. Okay, we're doing quite well with the schedule. You know, we're running the meeting efficiently, if I dare say that. So there's a little bit of spare time. If there's anyone who wants to speak, I can allow 5 minutes for someone to make a quick contribution, but I emphasize it should be only 5 minutes. If there's anyone who wants to speak, please indicate.
Hello, comrades. On behalf of the Iceland-Korea Friendship Association, I extend our warmest revolutionary greetings to all international friends of the Korean people gathered here for this significant seminar, and I thank the speakers for their addresses. We are gathered here to commemorate the 80th anniversary of Korea's glorious liberation, a pivotal moment in world history made possible by the heroic struggle of the Korean people under the unparalleled leadership of the eternal President Kim Il-sung. President Kim Il-sung's name is forever synonymous with Korea's independence and the revolutionary spirit of Juche, the philosophy of self-reliance. Facing the brutal oppression of imperialist Japan, he didn't seek salvation from others. Instead, he ignited the Korean people's flame of resistance from within, founding the immortal anti-Japanese People's Guerrilla Army. This struggle, rooted in the conviction that Korea's destiny, as those of all the free peoples of the world, must be shaped by the people themselves, by the Koreans themselves, culminated in the world historic liberation on August 15th, 1945. This victory wasn't gifted from others, it was won through unwavering belief in the people's strength and the principle of Juche. I will just shorten my speech. I feel it's going, I think it's too long. I will say, so we thank you, comrades, for organizing this vital seminar and providing a platform for international friends of the Korean people to honor this profound legacy. May the spirit of liberation and self-reliance continue to inspire all people striving for independence, peace, and justice. Long live the immortal Juche idea. Long live the eternal President Kim Il-sung. Long live People's Korea. Manse.
Say thank you very much for your speech and for being here today. And if you would like to send your speech to me, I will make sure that it is published on the website of our committee. And in fact, I will later today I will put up links to all the speeches we've got, and we've also got a number of books that you can download from the website, and we've got a couple of videos as well. And
thank you, Comrade. I will send it along.
Thank you very much. And as I say, we've got all sorts of materials on the website that we can use. And I'm just going to because another KFA UK branch, the Essex branch, which is very new, but they cannot be here today because they can't connect to Telegram. I'm just going to quickly read their contribution, and then we're going to move on to the final part of the meeting. And we should actually finish before the scheduled time. But this is the contribution of the KFA UK Essex branch, and I'll read it quickly. In the Western world today, there are a number of military people who became leaders of countries and continuously receive praise. George Washington is remembered, especially in the United States. In Britain, Winston Churchill is revered, whilst over the Channel in France, General Charles de Gaulle is looked still viewed upon as a wartime hero, despite his fleeing to England. One name you will not often see referred to with such reverence in the Western world is President Kim Il-sung, the founder of the Democratic People's Republic of Korea. His name should be held in reverence, but the Western world, filled with capitalist and imperialist aspirations, will never yield to his great and unsurpassed successes, for these happened through his pronounced inspiration, socialist ideals encouraging the unity of the Korean people. The West refused recognition of the leadership of the great leader and eternal president Kim Il-sung, who fought tirelessly against the Japanese Empire, liberating Korea in 1945. But you won't hear of the Korean struggle in the history of World War II and the battle against the Axis power of Imperial Japan. By and large, people of the West do not know of this struggle, and therefore do not understand this lack of recognition is simply because of the eternal president's leadership in the defeat of the huge imperialist forces of the United States. They do not know of the US and its Western allies' aim was to take over the entire Korean peninsula and impose capitalism led by its colony, something we have witnessed in the US puppet state of South Korea. Despite the censorship of the Western capitalist world, it is an unbiased historical fact. Compared to the achievements of Washington, Churchill, and de Gaulle, the military successes of Kim Il-sung are far greater. Yet, beyond these successes, the political and social achievements of the great leader, President Kim Il-sung, I believe are at least equally significant. For the following successes over the imperialist forces of the United States, the eternal president inherited a country in ruins and rubble. Such was the extent of US carpet bombing. I am certain, faced with such a dilemma, Western governments believed that the socialist state of the DPRK would fail. However, they vastly underestimated the leadership of the DPRK's eternal leader and the commitment of the people through implementation and success of Juche ideology. The DPRK was literally rebuilt from the ashes and its people liberated finally from colonialism. Never again would they be threatened by imperialism or influence from afar. The DPRK would be self-reliant on its own leadership and means through an ideology which survived despite the fall of the former Soviet Union and the majority of its allied states in the 1990s, and goes forth with greater success today. Self-reliance can never happen without unity. Unity of people, government and military. All are important cogs in a people's first philosophy where they work in unison. It is how the wonderful achievements of the DPRK have been delivered, where the country represents a beacon of successful socialism despite international sanctions and the constant military threat on its doorstep. In his inspirational speech in 1967, the great leader decreed, first, the government of the Republic will implement with all consistency the line of independence, self-sufficiency and self-defense to consolidate the political independence of the country, build up more solidly the foundations of an independent national economy capable of ensuring the complete unification, independence and prosperity of our nation, and increasing the country's defence capabilities so as to safeguard the security of the fatherland reliably by our own force, by splendidly embodying our party's idea of duce in all fields. I have observed with great admiration and magnificent achievements of the DPRK and how it was rebuilt from the destruction of the war whilst constantly maintaining the philosophy of duce and self-reliance. It sees the DPRK rapidly advancing today when we in the Western world endure increasing numbers of the working class facing homelessness, unemployment, severe poverty, or turn to addictive substances due to social conditions. The DPRK is the exact opposite. However, we in the Western world are fed a diet of denunciation of the DPRK and the duce ideology. In establishing the Essex branch KFA UK, in addition to representing the aims of the main KFA organisation, my intention was for others to discover the truth about the DPRK instead of misinformation and media lies spread by the West. To achieve this, the legacy of the great leader, President Kim Il-sung, should remain an inspiration, and wherever we are politically, an underlying message of self-reliance and the ideology of duce be spread. Long live duce, long live the DPRK, Rick Hayes, Korean Friendship Association UK, Essex branch. And as I say, that was quite good that they sent that contribution. So to start concluding the meeting, first of all, there is a message to respected Marshal Kim Jong-un that I would like the meeting to adopt. We always, at events like this, as a token of solidarity and our support for People's Career, adopt a message to the Supreme Leader of the country. So I'm going to read it out. European Regional Committee for Friendship with the Korean People, London, 9th of August, 2025. To His Excellency, respected Comrade Kim Jong-un, General Secretary of the Workers' Party of Korea, President of the State Affairs of the DPRK, Supreme Commander of the Korean People's Army. Dear respected Comrade Kim Jong-un, we, the participants in the seminar, President Kim Il-sung and Self-Reliance, which was organised by the Regional Committee for Friendship with the Korean People, wish to send our warm and fraternal congratulations to you on the occasion of the 80th anniversary of Korea from Japanese imperialist rule on the 15th of August. August 15th is remembered as a meaningful day when the Korean people and world progressive people are looking back with great emotion at the sacred revolutionary life and achievements of the great President Kim Il-sung, the saviour of the Korean nation and creator of independent politics. President Kim Il-sung led the Korean Revolution along the road of victory with his outstanding leadership, thus inspiring the cause of human independence. President Kim Il-sung liberated the country from the cruel chains of Japanese imperialism, bringing the rebirth of the Korean nation, which lost its sight from the earth, and found the Democratic People's Republic of Korea, that is the first state of People's Republic in the East, by wisely leading the Korean people to build a new nation by their own strength. President Kim Il-sung also led the 3-year Fatherland Liberation War to victory, started by the US defeating the imperialist allied forces and built Korea into an independent, self-reliant and self-defensive socialist power, completing the post-war construction and socialist revolution. All these immortal achievements were made by self-reliance, which was President Kim Il-sung's revolutionary idea and fundamental aspect of his life, and a precious heritage, an invincible, eternal treasure handed down to the Korean people by the president. The past 80 years since the liberation of Korea have been of true independence and self-reliance under the banner of the Juche idea. Today, People's Korea, under the guidance of Your Excellency, is dynamically advancing along the road of building up self-reliance, defense capability of the country, and the comprehensive development of socialism, regarding self-reliance as Juche Korea's characteristic national custom. So it shines out as a beacon of independence and hope, which is admired by the world. As you are there, Korea will shine forever in the future as a country of achieving wealth and power and prosperity by self-reliance. May the celebrations of the 80th anniversary of Korea's liberation be truly momentous. Our seminar will adopt an appeal to the world's progressive people to celebrate the oncoming 80th anniversary of the Workers' Party of Korea, the guide of the Korean people with meaningful activities. We wish you a long life in good health, signed on behalf of the participants of the seminar, European Regional Committee for the Korean People, London, 9th of August. Okay, can we agree to adopt that letter? Everyone in favour?
Yes.
We adopt this message.
Yes, definitely.
Okay, everyone seems in favour. I'm hearing no one against, no abstentions. So that is carried. Thank you very much, comrades. And we now have an appeal to the world progressive people, which I shall read out, and this is about the forthcoming 80th anniversary of the foundation of the Workers' Party of Korea. And it reads, "Dear comrades and friends, soon the Korean people and world progressive people will greet the 80th founding anniversary of the Workers' Party of Korea, that is boasting the longest ruling history of socialism. Since its founding on October 10th, 1945, the Workers' Party of Korea, WPK, has regarded the people first principle as its main political idea and made selfless, devoted efforts for the people and built the powerful socialist Korea that is serves everything for the people. Recently, the high-handedness and arbitrariness of the imperialist aggressive forces and their aggressive moves are becoming undisguised, and due to it, the whole world is suffering from misery and pain in the war and tumult of flesh and blood but only in socialist Korea led by the WPK, the people are enjoying stable and happy life, and new policies for people are continuously being enforced. As the great party of the independence era, the WPK has made a great contribution in carrying out the cause of global independence and is regarded as an object of envy and mainstay of mind, beacon of hope among the world progressive people. The WPK is displaying its might to the full and making a new future of socialist Korea. It's marking its proud 80 years of foundation, and this historic day comes nearer the excited minds of the progressive people who love peace and aspire after independence are heading towards the DPRK. The world progressive people pay highest tribute to the Workers' Party, Korea, the Great People's Party, and publish this appeal below, sharing the common recognition that in their hearts to celebrate the 80th founding anniversary of the WPK as a grand political festival in human history. 1. In order to celebrate the 80th founding anniversary of the WPK as a grand political festival of human history, we set the month of celebration from August 15th, which is the 80th anniversary of Korea's liberation, to October 10th, which is the 80th founding anniversary of the DPRK. And during this period, we are going to elevate the celebrating atmosphere on a worldwide scale. During the month of celebration, the Friendship and Solidarity organisations with the Korean people organised in different parts of the world will form celebration preparatory committees and select the celebrating periods, and also organise and conduct colourful political and cultural events in a meaningful way to introduce the great history of the WPK. On the occasion of the 80th founding anniversary of the WPK in various regions around the world, there will be special international events organised grandly. At the beginning of the month of celebration, the 80th anniversary of the day of Korea's liberation, the European Regional Committee for Friendship with the Korean people will organise and conduct an e-seminar under the title of President Kim Il-sung on Self-reliance on August 9th. In the European region, under the auspices of the Korean Friendship Association, the International e-seminar and photo exhibition under the title 80 Years of the Glorious WPK, Building the Future of the Country, is going to be held from October 4th to 8th. In the Americas region, under the joint name of the Latin American and Caribbean Regional Committee for Solidarity with the DPRK and the Mexico Solidarity Korea Solidarity Committee will significantly organise celebrating the event in October on the occasion of the 80th founding anniversary of the WPK. In the month for in the month for celebration, solidarity activities supporting the just cause of the Korean people will be conducted in an international scale continuously. We actively support the struggle of the Korean people for realising the peace and security of the Korean Peninsula, the region and the world, and also energetically conducting solidarity activities in various countries and regions to expose the anti-DPRK moves and fury of the war threat of the US imperialists and its vassal forces who are becoming ever more outrageous. These activities would rather create an incited atmosphere of celebration and solidarity with the International Celebration Month. expressing great expectation and conviction that the world progressive people in different countries will celebrate the 80th founding anniversary of the WPK as a grand political festival of the human history by cooperating with each other and maintaining the unity of action during the month of celebration. And also this letter of appeal should be fully agreed by all. So can we agree?
We agree.
So yes, yes, agree. Right, support that. Okay, and lastly, this is a short resolution. See if I can find it. 1 minute. We have a short resolution about an emergency resolution about the war exercises. They're actually going to begin in just over a week's time. I'll just read it out. In fact, I can also drop it in the chat as well. Emergency resolution on the Yuchi Freedom Shield, August 2025. On the 7th of August, the US and ROK military announced that they would stage the Yuchi Freedom Shield war exercise from August 18th to August 28th. That's 10 days. We strongly denounce these military exercises, which are deeply provocative and aggressive in intent. Such exercises are a trail run for invading people's career and affecting regime change. The fact that these exercises are going ahead proves that talk of dialogue and negotiations from both the US and the new liberal regime in the ROK is just talk and is fake. We express full solidarity with people's career in its struggle against US aggression and call for friendship organisations to carry out activities to denounce Yuchi Freedom Shield. Signed the participants in the seminar, President Kim Il-sung and Self-reliance. Can we agree that? That seems
yes.
That seems to be agreed. Okay, and before we move to the close, we got a very short video that Jeremy is going to stream for us. But I was just going to say before Jeremy plays the video, I think this has been a very successful seminar. We've demonstrated solidarity with people's career. There's many hostile forces who wish that events like this were not held, and I think we've in our own way we've delivered a blow against the enemies of people's career, like the imperialists and revisionists and reactionaries. So this has been very successful, but anyway, I'm sure people want to see the video, so go ahead please now, Jeremy.
The 20-year-long anti-Japanese revolutionary struggle organized and led by the great leader Kim Il-sung put an end to the colonial rule of the Japanese imperialists and liberated Korea on August 15th, Juche 34 or 1945. In the year after liberation, the agrarian reform, the first of its kind in the East, was enforced in the Democratic People's Republic of Korea. It was enforced on the principle of confiscating without compensation the land owned by the Japanese imperialists and traitors to the nation, the land owned by the landlords with more than 5 hectares. and the land which was continually rent out to others, and of distributing them gratis to the peasants with no or little of land. It realized the centuries-old desire of the Korean peasantry, who wanted to do farming on their land to their heart's content. The changed life was not only for the peasants. As the labor law was promulgated on June the 24th, 35 or 1946, workers and office employees were provided with the democratic rights to labor and rest, such as the 8-hour day, paid leave, and social insurance systems. The promulgation of the law on sex equality was a historic declaration which legally defined that the Korean women are completely liberated from the inequalities in the political, economic, and cultural life.
남녀평등권 공룡의 발표로 우리나라에서는 여성들에 대한 차별 대우가 없어지고 사회 각 방면에서 여성들이 남자들과 동등한 권리를 가진 진정한 인간으로서의 생활을 하게 되었습니다. 1947년 7월 27일부 노동신문에는 우리 여성들이 사회생활에서 일어난 그 전변에 대해서 이렇게 소개했습니다. 지난해 11월 3일에 도시군 인민위원회 위원선거와 올해 2월과 3월에 묘리 인민위원회 위원선거에 700만 북조선 여성들은 정치에 참가할 권리와 피선될 권리를 유감없이 행사하여 이미 각급 인민위원회 위원으로 4,488명이 당선되었으며 북조선 인민정권의 최고기관인 인민회의에 24명이 당선되었다.
The law on nationalization of major industries was promulgated on August 10th, 35 or 1946. Thanks to it, the workers became the legitimate masters of the factories and the means of production. On the basis of the successes in the democratic reforms, Kim Il-sung founded the Democratic People's Republic of Korea on September 9th, 37 or 1948. The Korean people, once colonial slaves, became the masters of the factories, the land, and the country, and rendered services to the building of a new democratic Korea. Those with strength giving their strength, those with knowledge contributing their knowledge, and those with money donating their money.